Scotch tape, scissors and all, broadcasting from a hotel room in Vancouver, British Columbia. Have to write a speech today, so I guess that's all there is to it. Simple day. Answer a couple of emails, that's it. So welcome back, Artist Journal, January 17th, 2025. Broadcasting from somewhere out there. And thrilled to see you again. Thank you for all the support, and welcome to all the new subscribers. I don't know what's happening on YouTube, but there is kind of a constant trickle of new subscribers, so it's awesome. I think YouTube rewards you. I think they share your videos the more you post, so it's good that good incentive to keep posting. I was thinking, I have to admit, I've been thinking to myself, you turn on the ads for YouTube, put it this way, a lot of the community who has been watching this show for a couple of years, those people who have, you can always watch it on X commercial free, is what I was thinking. So I hesitate. I hesitate because this is to me, this is a bit of a sacred space of free conversation. And so I really do hesitate because the issue is what does it mean symbolically? Now, you could say the same thing about art. Oh, you're selling, are you just going to give away your art so that it's more pure, right? And then when you think of it in that context, it's almost ridiculous to be concerned about turning on the ads. But there's something, again, I think I mentioned it a few episodes ago, there's something about speech and freedom. It's like the instrument of freedom is speech. You could argue it's visual art too, but perhaps most immediately is just saying what you think. Anyways, with that in mind, let's get started. I was starting to devolve a little bit, because it's been, I think, 3 days. It was on a plane flight yesterday, long plane flight, Berlin to Vancouver through London. And I was like, all of a sudden I was spending an hour and a half and I was like, too many tabs and everything. So let's begin in the spirit of keeping it short. So this was super interesting. I like to call this the digital artist's dilemma. Because here's Dan Control. Interesting. I mean, it's not like, it's an interesting artwork. It's not like, mind-blowing, but to a certain degree it is. And let me explain. Dan Control, from this work in progress of some time ago, it seems interesting as it actually is. It seems interesting as it actually is, as we see it. And so this is, again, I call it the digital artist's dilemma to a certain degree. As you're making work, there's going to be a million different variations that you're going to see along the way. And as I've mentioned in the past, it's amazing how often randomness works. And the classic example that I've come up with here is, watching TV while playing unrelated music on a, ghetto blaster or on your speaker system, and how they sync up so incredibly. It's a phenomenon, right? It probably has a name. And that phenomenon, to me, illustrates how it's an example, a concrete example of how often randomness works. Weirdly. It's almost cosmic, right? And so here we have a whole bunch of elements from Dan Control's work, which we'll look at in a second briefly. But, you see the cell phone. He's made works of the cell phone. He's made works of all these things. Maybe repeating the Mickey. We've seen these works in the past. Super interesting artist with a nice kind of conceptual edge. And here you see Dan Control just experimenting. And again, it's almost like a feature that is separate, that separates digital and physical, because you don't have the option, so to speak, to export your physical artwork when you're painting it halfway and you go, kind of like that version. No, you're kind of constantly faced with what you might call the physical artist's dilemma. Do I continue or not? It looks pretty good. And as most physical artists will tell you, sometimes you go too far. And it's really painful because you go, I really liked it at that point. I kept working on it and the poetry was reduced. Right? So that's one. So here we see digital artists don't need to do this. And so there's a dilemma, especially for, digital artists who use the blockchain, who can sell the work. I mean, Dan Control could just start changing the elements. I mean, you could put out thousands of works. And I sometimes ask myself, I don't put out enough, right? And sometimes I ask, like, I could literally be putting out, like, hundreds of works, right? So it's a kind of dilemma of a certain kind here. And I thought it was just kind of wonderfully illustrated here, because I'd actually argue there's a lot going on here that's pretty interesting. Like, it's a cool juxtaposition of Dan Control's work. Put it this way. If you were putting a poster together for a retrospective of Dan Control's work, you might think that this is not a terrible, comprehensive image of what Dan's doing. It encompasses so many different things. Maybe you add a little bit, make it more kind of put text on above and below, and you have your Dan Control show. I mean, just for the sake of argument, you could do that. So all super interesting. Of course, again, for those that are new, Dan Control, what I'd call a gradient artist. And let me quickly go through. And there's Martin Bruce, right? Another kind of conceptual, very thoughtful artist going, yeah, I like what I see here. It was a head turner. Like, it was a double take, and it was exciting. What Dan Control, and he has to be given credit. I'd actually just want to add here. Dan Control needs to be given credit for going, you know what, I'm going to post this work in progress, like for making this little step here of posting it and going, I think I like it. Because that's actually not as, like, that's kind of, he's breaking through certain conceptual walls that are in the mind, to his credit. And he's going, you know what, let's try this, and what if, right? So, for those that are wondering, yeah, these are kind of classic here. Bring up a couple. Again, I don't want to punish the browser too much here. But, these are awesome. I mean, there's almost like a bit of a pop Tom Wesselman, for example, although it's all gradients. And actually, I'm having issues with works showing up here. For whatever reason, there may be too much loaded in my browser here. So maybe we'll just, unfortunately, look from over here, but we'll get a different view. And look at this. So all done usually using gradients. There's also some medieval works here. Again, unfortunately, I'm going to close these. Unfortunately, maybe in Dan's feed, let me just go here. Twitter's a little friendlier sometimes. We'll go to media. And yeah, like this is like, he also does painting, by the way. We'll do these chairs. You see this repetition here? So does one chair, for example, and then repeats it and makes a composition, and this chair will be all made out of gradient. We can try opening it up close, and a beautiful thing is, and then he just does, color, pure color to white gradient in the background. So very conceptual, I'd argue, kind of minimalist in spirit, and just to show you, the outlines are done ahead of time, then they're removed as a, separate layer, I assume, because sometimes we see the outlines that Dan Control does, and then the gradients are left behind. And then you have your chair, and then you just repeat it. And then you make your compositions. And Dan Control has done many versions of these kinds of things. Like, as you see here, we'll do this work, this little crypto key on its own, and then we'll repeat it. And we don't need to go back to Macbeth quotes there in regard to Ongo. But an awesome, you see it here with the TVs, these kind of retro TVs. A real fun spirit here, and it's put out a ton of work. Look at the cigarettes, right? Animals. So, really awesome artists. Look at that. I wish we could open this. Having little issues here. Ants, still available, 185. So interesting, lots of animals, pigeons. You see the experimentation going right to the edge. So continuing that conceptual journey, as someone who's made this much art will say, is like, well, what if? And again, the classic, term for this is the non finito. Thought to have been innovated by Michelangelo with, I think it was the Dying Slave, these sculptures that some scholars argue, prominent scholars will argue, was done on purpose, and that Michelangelo understood the poetry of leaving things kind of half-finished, and that was intentional, is the argument. And you see it with Warhol as a classic, artist of the non-finito, for lack of better term. So, all very interesting. Thank you, everybody who came out to see Victor Acevedo. last episode, 78 coming in, tuning in. Very interesting episode as ever. We went for the full 90 minutes there. And for those that might not know, here's some of Victor's work. You see kind of this geodesic dome thing. These are from 2000. And we were discussing some of these works on the show. And so, yeah, I made these works way back in 2000. You see this kind of energy field, a bit of kind of metaphysical things going on with Victor's work. So that was awesome. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Let's just quickly look at the comments here. Ed Marola, loving the discussions. Thank you for another feature. You're welcome, my friend. Wonderful art. That beautiful artwork that Ed did last show. Scamra, great show. And thanks so much for showing one of my works today. We have another one. I manage the colors, and I was discussing the color and Scamra's uncanny sense of color. And so he was getting help from AI. I manage the colors in stable diffusion through the negative prompts. I subtract out colors and palettes that I don't want AI to use. For example, in the work you showed today, I used the negative prompt neon, among others, in order to remove loud, pure colors. Super interesting. If I add colors or palettes to the regular positive prompts, it can be too heavy-handed. Managing them through the negative prompt allows for more chance and randomness to enter the process. Delightful. Thank you for sharing, Scamra, and incredibly interesting. It explains a lot. Actually, it really helps, explain, because it almost seems superhuman, frankly, Scamra's color wizardry. And color, again, is one of those, I'd argue, one of the most important and one of the most kind of almost underrated. As I like to say here, as I said in older shows, the magic of painting is in color, I would argue, and Raphael, I'd argue, is Exhibit A. On that, for those that have seen, what is it, the entombment, I believe, in Rome, in the big park there by Piazza del Popolo. There is a big Borghese, the Borghese. It's not the collection Borghese, but there's the Lamentation there. If you want to, I'd say go see that, or the Transfiguration in the Vatican, and you see the color. Late Raphael, just spectacular. Absolutely spectacucular. So comment/show. Peter the Roman. I almost spat out my tea when I saw the Zora homepage. It looked like candy, didn't it? Also, definitely feel a bit used by Zora and other platforms. At the end of the day, we gotta eat, and it feels like the new meta is that we don't eat at all. Another great show, by the way. It's interesting. I think almost every artist... I think we, in a weird way, as artists, have more power than we might think. Like, it depends how desperate you are for money, right? It depends how much you need the money right away. But if you don't need the money right away, in a sense, in a weird way, I'd argue with all these, as long as there are other options, for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum, as long as there's Manifold.xyz, as long as there's Tezos, you don't have to. You don't have to sell your art for cheap. There's, in a sense, it is a free market. Like, it is a free decision. So it's interesting. Yes, but yeah, it was pretty funny. Has Dribble Waffle back on the scene here? Ortiscan looks like a great tool. Does it work with GIFs as well? Would really love to see you do a live demo, Poco, or share your thoughts if you try it out. Indeed, it does. It's basically putting up data on the blockchain. Your biggest constraint is the cost. Again, it's about $1 per kilobyte when it's at like 3 sats per vbyte. Okay, and I am going to it's really at the top. Maybe I can do it this weekend. I kind of have a busy weekend. I kind of want to, do well with this speech here, so I may just be practicing for the next couple of days on that before I give it on Sunday. But it's a super high priority, and Ortiscan, as Luke 500 was pointing out, looks freaking awesome. It looks like exactly what we need, and I don't think there's any terms and conditions, which is like, can you ask for anything better? And again, you put waffle GIFs. Like I put up, the pixel art Inferno, 270 by 270 pixels, 2 colors, and that was like less than 5 kilobytes. I just posted a work today which I did like months ago and was been too lazy to post. I'm going to change that. But anyways, thank you for the interest. And yes, it's a high top priority. August Ground, that Burka Bayram piece, Holy Mountain, is an Alejandro Jodorowsky film, or Jodorowsky film. I've heard of this guy. There are people who swear by this guy. I'm not sure if I've ever watched any of their films. I think Waffles may have mentioned this. Classic underground cinema. That image is cribbed from a famous scene. Okay, excellent. So maybe not from the Scarlet Letter. Continuing on, Groove Streets. So happy Groove Streets is back. Thank you very much for your analysis and support, my friend. Your journal is an essential service to the community. Again, doing that Grand Theft Auto screenshots as paintings, as digital works. Just awesome. Would love to see one of ones from Groove Street. Mr. Bezold Palia, love her rants against post-structuralism. Indeed. I don't know if that one was new or old. I haven't seen too much from her, and all of a sudden she appeared on Instagram there, and I thought, that would be fun. Why not add Palia to the show? Definitely a provocative thinker, and I think she overgeneralizes. And put it this way, I like her spirit a lot. I don't agree with everything she said, though, because I think it was at the end of her... She had Break, Blow, Burn, which I think works like just kind of a book that everybody could theoretically read on poetry. And then she had a work on art, and then she was talking about Star Wars, like one of the new Star Wars as being one of the best visual arts things ever. And I thought that was the weirdest thing. So I don't agree, oftentimes I'll completely agree, and then she'll just be like completely off from my perspective, and I just find it kind of mystifying. So I'm not sure what to make of that. So anyways, but always interested to hear what she has to say, let's put it that way. Object.com, wonderful show. Thank you, Object. I'm glad you're watching. That is deeply appreciated. Thank you for the comment. Jan Lucas Migone, fresh. Yeah, awesome. And your August Ground. Absolute Zigmar Polka, good call. Yes, indeed. Coloring outside the lines, as we're calling it here. BBC, not sure what's going on here. A couple of $1 bills as gifts. And 3 Pro, I appreciate your insights and help. So thank you for the comments there on X and all the support. Madeleine Dupont, thank you. I appreciate you covering important topics and trying to be objective and bringing opinions from both sides. Did we already bring this up? I read a lot of the comments and decided to add to the rodeo.com thread. I think I may have brought this up last show. Apologies here. So yeah, I think we already looked at that. Either way, thank you for the comment. Alliance Survey, Art Basil's research, and it's Basel, not Basil. As I've learned, in my course, in my years in Berlin, you don't want to be caught saying Art Basel, otherwise you look like amateur hour. So Art Basel, everyone. Art Basil's research has become so biased, it cannot be trusted or distinguished from artsy self-promotion anymore. And here's the quote: "The findings are clear that the fair experience is still valued when making decisions on what to buy." So I just thought it was kind of interesting. I like Alliance Survey, but I thought more it was the sentiment than the analysis that I thought was interesting. To me, this is just kind of building a greater and greater case for kind of what Palia was mentioning and what I'm calling the elephant in the room for the last, she calls it 5 decades, I call it 3, but I'm only 45. Okay, so, but this whole, what's going on in the contemporary art world, I think it's about the art, is I think what the issue is. And then you'll see headlines, it's like, it doesn't have to do with the art. I can't remember, it was the FT. It's like, it doesn't have anything to do with the art. The market's kind of crashing, but it doesn't have anything to do with the art. Like, there's literally a headline, you may have remembered that from an earlier show, and again, it's just like this constant weakening of this edifice, this top-heavy edifice, this Jenga, structure here. So I just think it's interesting. So skepticism now towards Basel and artsy, institutions, intellectual signs, institutions within the contemporary art space. This was interesting too. Derek, guys, this is some fashion guy, right? But he brought up something that I thought which was super interesting and relates to what we're doing here, and something I've been mentioning for a long time, which is learning these visual languages. which is why I say sometimes the art that we're discussing here on this show is not widely understood, is confusing to people, or is just kind of doesn't resonate. And for me, the reason this is, for a lot of, I'd say, people out there, is it's because the language is quite difficult. And, like, nobody taught me the language. Like, I was only through spending weeks and months with this art that you start to learn the language of what's going on in this, what I would call an international visual, arts underground. And so this is what Derek Guy, this kind of fashion guy in a completely different context, is saying. Lots of fit guys look terrible in their clothes simply because they haven't taken the time to learn the language. And I saw that and I thought, it translates. It really translates. So I just thought that was interesting and worth mentioning. This idea of visual languages, it doesn't really get discussed enough. And that is, I think, the biggest reason why you go to the Tate show and see the Electric Dream show, and I feel like in spirit, they wanted to do the second generation of digital art, what I call it, but it's still like the language is still developing. It's like, I would argue, and I know that's probably super controversial, some of the greatest curators probably in the world by reputation, right? They're the Tate modern curators. But, I went to the show with RJ and I was like, RJ, what's going on here? It's like they're trying. And we discussed this with Victor Acevedo too. It's like the institutions are really trying. But it's like they're, and I don't blame them. I mean, not everybody's spent, 6 months, on Object, just kind of, or Twitter, really just kind of looking for what's going on. It takes a lot of time, and you arrive skeptical. That's the thing. Like, you arrive skeptical. I know it because I was too, and it was, Rada's work. It was Haiti Rockette's work. It was the Kurt Hustle Collective where I went, I have to question my own assumptions that the art's not that great on the blockchain. Because that is I would argue, that is the mainstream assumption, as well as the assumption of people in contemporary art. And for everything and you can't even blame them that much, I would argue, based on, the popular, what is presented as the latest, greatest art on the blockchain. I don't blame people for that. So it's interesting. And it's nothing against, what I call, loosely here, mainstream Ethereum culture, but Beeple is not for everyone. And there's going to be a lot of people in painters and whatever, they're just going to be like, that's all fine and good. And again, nothing, Beeple's done, he has nothing to prove to me. He's made millions and has a massive, one of the most popular digital artists in the world. But just to explain the thinking of, I was meta artists like a week ago. And it's like, yeah, but the art, I was telling, doing digital art on the blockchain, you mean NFTs? Yeah. But the art, how do you do that? I'm like, well, there's other stuff going on. And I have to say that. And I have almost, let's continue before the show goes forever. This is not going to be more than an hour. Betty NFT posted a selfie to Rodeo and got paid $20. In my opinion, the platform isn't your finest art or best work. You aren't being paid enough, and the splits don't make sense for that. I'm using it like Tumblr or Instagram, logging my creative inspiration I would be otherwise sharing for free. And I'm just not sure. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of, is it Warpcast? Farcaster, Warpcast, the Twitter thing. It was a big deal for about 3 months. The crypto version of Twitter was a big deal for 3 months, to guesstimate, maybe 4. And once all the airdrops or all the money was kind of siphoned out of it and squeezed out of it, there's not really too much action there. It still gets used. I was there 3 weeks ago and I was surprised to see it is still being used. But again, I'm not seeing a huge amount of discussion about it or excitement. And I'm not sure you're still going to get $20 in 6 months. is my question. So maybe, again, it's kind of like post everything you can and just squeeze all the money, shake all the money you can out of the money tree while you can. I mean, that's what it was for Warpcast. So anyways, interesting comment. NFT Biker, I don't think we touched this. Rodeo.com put some very low offers that Rodeo show as 5x, so be careful. So these are like a penny, but they're shown as 5x. So it would be nice that Rodeo prevents a scam and filters invalid offers, or at least doesn't show them as 5x offers. So NFT Biker on the scene, and then later said, Rodeo fixed this. Now only badly coded selling bots should accept weird offers. So I guess they fixed this. Okay, we are back. Just had to plug in the computer there. Temporary emergency before I lose another video. NFT Lisa, now I hope you understand why I like using Manifold. So rest in peace, Maker's Place, Foundation, and Known Origin. So we saw Rob go from Foundation to Maker's Place. Unfortunately, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, I was never enthusiastic about Maker's Place because I felt like it was kind of felt like a contemporary art. I was surprised to see they were doing anything. But then I think maybe through this show, I learned, oh, Maker's Place is actually doing things. Maybe it was Rob from Maker's Place that sent me information or something. But I was never enthusiastic about it because it felt like this closed ecosystem of people who are trying to bring contemporary art over to the blockchain, that world, but really self-consciously keep it contemporary art. And again, this kind of like, I don't know, it felt kind of elitist, but without the name but without the kind of brand to kind of back up that elitism, or frankly, the art, I would argue, to overgeneralize. But nevertheless, okay, we're seeing kind of marketplaces go down. Apparently, it's not a great business. You know, it's low margins. It's a tricky business. So anyways, Manifold is more independent, and I'm kind of back to Bitcoin. Like, I mean, because look at this. Where do you see this? Well, okay, next tab. As a web designer, this is Scardeck. So next tab, you'll see what I'm talking about. But here, as a web designer, I can pinpoint the exact moment Maker's Place started to decline, about a year ago when they changed their UI. The activity, and again, Object needs to fix their notifications. Just another kind of, keep reminding them on that. Should Object be watching again? They have to be fixed. The activity page's new design failed its fundamental purpose by transforming the artworks into tiny thumbnails with a spreadsheet format, making it impossible to appreciate any artistic detail. For any marketplace, this is a serious mistake. When your main product is art, shrinking it down while making transaction data the focus. This is also what Blur did, which was more just like PFPs and whatnot, but they shrunk down. It's just all about the money. When your main product is art, shrinking it down while making transaction data the focus showed they lost sight of what mattered to users. Like, you're visually communicating that it's not about the art, it's about the money. No collector wants to scroll through an Excel sheet when trying to find art to buy. I voiced my concern about this on multiple occasions. Yeah, excellent observation. Like, I never used it enough to know that, but I totally agree with that sentiment. Luke 500. I mean, it's part of the tension that exists with sometimes, I don't know who was behind Maker's Place, but with crypto people, because digital art is one of the few real use cases, I would argue, that is that where crypto is used and helps in a way that nothing else can. It's a credible way to buy and sell digital objects, with digital art being the main use case. So that's why I think crypto. So there's always this forced marriage almost between these crypto tech people who may not, in some cases, maybe in some cases they care about art, but not always, right? And then those people who don't care about the art, who are just about the tech and getting the funding and getting more money. It's like this hard marriage that doesn't necessarily always, a lot of friction. Let's continue. Luke 500. This is what we must talk about. Kudos to Jail ETH for breaking it down, and Maker's Place have the moral responsibility to address it for the common good. Data preservation is a key topic which gets often overlooked until it's too late. And what is he talking about? What is Luke talking about? Maker's Place. Not sure if this has been addressed, but can you upgrade token metadata? Two issues with your current metadata design. This URI link uses IPFS protocol links, but wrongly implements them. So you see the link is screwed up. Ditch the second IPFS, it's non-standard and users have to... So here, this, as far as I understood, this platform was advertising itself as some sort of elite contemporary art thing, walled garden, you can't go in if you're not invited, and you have to be a somebody from the contemporary art scene was my impression of it. And here, this elite, situation can't even get the link right for where this image is going to be stored in the cloud of what you're buying. And you saw the prices there. Like, look at the prices. $2,000, $2,000, $2,000, right? 2, the actual metadata links the images to either S3 buckets, so Amazon, or the makersplace.com IPFS gateway, both of which will break when you stop paying for them. The token URI for change by Danny Ebb links to the Makerspace Amazon S3 bucket, right? So we're kind of back to this whole issue. And the metadata for Goat by Beeple links to the Makerspace gateway. And the metadata for Goat by Beeple links to the Makerspace gateway. Gateway URLs depend on you paying for those servers and domains. So Makerspace just announced that they're going out a bit, like that they're ceasing operations. If you use proper protocol links in these cases as well, art minted on Makerspace become truly independent, ownable objects that can be kept alive indefinitely by interested parties. So, isn't it interesting? Like, I'm kind of back to, I don't really trust anyone, when it comes to these things. That's why I'm kind of, and someone brought up, like, I posted a work that I put on Bitcoin on Ordinals. Someone's like, you should put this on Stamps. Bitcoin, and that's even more robust, as I think Santiago Isacodal has mentioned in the past. Like, there's, you could still get an upgrade from Bitcoin where they get rid of ordinals in theory. Stamps, there's absolutely nothing that can be done, from my understanding. Like, it's really forever, as far as as long as Bitcoin is around. So I was actually really appreciative to see that comment. You should put it on Stamps as like, that's not a terrible idea, because it's really about preservation at the end of the day. And as you see here, there's a Beeple. How many thousands of dollars is that worth? Right? And, oh, sorry, we got the link wrong. Your work disappeared. Let's continue. Polygon 1993, CRT TV Supremacy. So, cool. Filming the screen. Always interesting. Love to see that. Here's Sailor Mokos, Love Life. So doing some pixel art via textiles. Super interesting there. Here's RJ, Genesis Physical. So RJ is painting. So very cool. You gotta love RJ's endless experimentation here. So here doing some painting of a work that was probably composed with AI, interestingly. Chris Kilowski. While I'm animating, the machines behind me are working on the next batch of Kizki merch and making horrible noises. So all sorts of interesting things going on, making some merch. Here is Mirakit putting out some beautiful printed versions of the work. And I'd almost love to see this being brought back into the digital sphere. These look like physicals here, kind of putting out this almost like comic-like zine. So interesting, isn't it? So pretty cool. Here's Spugels working on something fun with Transient Labs. And so here, kind of looks like a video game that Spugels is working on. How cool is that? Sounds lucrative. Being commissioned to be the digital artist on a video game. Sounds fantastic. Pixel Fool, rest in peace, David Lynch. Of course, David Lynch passed. I thought this was a brilliant homage here to David Lynch, of course, to, I think there's, Twin Peaks here, I think the final episode. And so, great work from Pixel Fool. David Lynch, I'm not going to try and sum up David Lynch, but I think a lot of people love his spirit. I watched a few David Lynch movies. Sometimes they're quite difficult, or challenging, is probably the word to use. But I think it was his spirit more than anything that people liked, and just what he was trying to do, or trying to do things differently. And the opening to Lost Highway with David Bowie's "I'm Deranged," one of my favorite. There are moments in Lynch that I absolutely adore. Someone else posted there's a scene from that movie. We've met before. Call me. I'm actually in your house right now. Anyway, yeah, there's some great scenes there from David Lynch. Rest in peace. Also a work by Pixelful here. A nice piece here, just posted on X. Here's Sabato, rest in peace. So this is from Lynch's Eraserhead V9 codec data bending from 2015. So it already done a homage to David Lynch back in 2015. Very cool. From Sabato. And here is August Ground, new mint. On the day of a master's death, please repost. So here it is. So, yes, so some chattering teeth box here. So a little homage to Lynch there. Here is Pin Steak. So this is a one of one. And so here we go. Looks like Fantavision to me. So here's Pinstake, Fanavision. What else? I mean, there's, I think, 3 or 4 works. 3 got put out just yesterday, I think. 2 were sent to me. Not this. This is a one of one sent to Neon Monk. What I loved about this palette, it almost looks like a piano, a multicolored key piano, almost like a prepared piano, but could be something different. Some eyes and these beautiful animations that Waffles is doing, or I should say Pinstake. Who looks exactly like Waffles, is using emojis as all the writing here. Here's the running person. Let's see if we can get the music going. We shall see if we can get the music going. The music's really good, too. Having issues with... let me see. I'm going to try opening this in a new tab and then hit replay here and see if this loads up. And here, do this. Look at how fabulous that looks. So there is music accompanying this. We'll see if it plays. It's really slow. It could be my internet, could be something else, not sure. So unfortunately, that one's not playing. We have another brilliant one. It's too bad. The music's really moody and good. Let me just make sure. Yeah, everything is on. But unfortunately, we do not hear the music. So another cool work using Fanavision in these great animations from Pinstake. So beautiful, beautiful work there. And one more. See if this one plays. Looks like it's loaded. So really sad about that. And so here you kind of see this almost ET-like character, more just dragging and copying and everything. Kind of looks like the toolbox there. Wildness here from, and more emojis from Pinstake, edition of 6. And again, those last 2, the shark and I think this one, were sent to me. So thank you, Pinstake. Very nice. Thrilled. Koala Painter, here's Martin Bruce. This sold super fast. Kind of a wild, humorous one. With a koala painting here from Martin Bruce, probably the most unpredictable artist in the blockchain. A real painter is the name of that's the description. This sold for 300 Tezos, and it was fast. I think it was like less than an hour. An offer came in. So of 300 Tezos, so that's pretty awesome. Yeah, Martin Bruce, one of one. Here is Scamra with some more beautiful textures, I guess you would call them. Just gorgeous AI textures. We're learning from Scamra in the comments there, this kind of subtractive palette prompts to get these colors. Look at this, beautiful. Kind of looks like an angel or something. Here's Jean Provencher with different kinds of renderings here, some rastering and some dithering here in the top left, rastering. I think you'd call it this in the bottom right. Quite beautiful. Again, another thing that reminds you of Polka here. Here's Yuri J just posting on X a banana. And you see the classic kind of repetition that goes on and all the kind of classic traits of a Yuri J, all these different textures. Interesting overlaps here. Kind of coloring outside the lines here in this shape that goes across the banana, keeping a little bit of it, but transforming it. Also here, you see there's this kind of lightness here with on the table. And then the banana, almost like it's a cutout, folds over with whatever kind of looks like a tablecloth. Interesting there. And then zooms in a bit and kind of a different rendering here. So little update, and so it's pretty cool. And then you see here, it's kind of like pixelated when you zoom in. So cool updates from Yuri J. Here's RJGM. So we saw a work like this. I'm not sure. I think we saw different colors though. So maybe RJ's taking previous works and then changing the colors and then putting them on X. We're kind of back to what I call the digital artist's dilemma here that I opened with. It's like you could put a billion different versions of this. It's quite interesting. Here also with these kind of new painted or finger-painted figures in these works here. So interesting work. So making pictures, maybe a self-portrait. Here's Kazuhiro Ehara. Let's see if it plays. Thankfully it does. Barely. So yes, unfortunately, there's only so much I can do here, but you kind of get the picture here. Unfortunately, it's not playing the full thing. Dealer says only one left, edition of 6. So back on object. Pinstake picking one up for 39 Tezos. Nice. Here's Nov 1914, Vers la Casa. And so kind of going black and white here, almost looks like operating system, that icons or elements that are being stretched out here. And then it looks like another house playing with grays and maybe a light gray or white over here from Nov 1914 out of Buenos Aires. Here's Time, also known as Santiago, out of Uruguay. I'm just going to stick with the X versions here so they don't crash the browser. So cool abstract here from Time, as you see. Kind of a little bit more kind of liquidy in this one. Here is Enigmatras, ASCII shoes. Cool colors here. Shoes modified by ASCII elements and almost like these kind of flower. I used to have actually shoes with a big rose on it when I'd do Italian dancing when I was like 5 years old. So I recognize these kinds of shoes. This kind of looks like mistletoe or something. TMI, I joke with myself. Oh, I hope this plays. I don't think it will. So another sad situation here. Yeah, unfortunately, not sure. Let me see if I am still connected. I'll try and reconnect, or I'll connect to my phone, and we shall see if this works. Because maybe it is the hotel internet here, and we will reload. Otherwise, it's object. Oh, now everything's playing. now the waffles is playing. Oh, see, that was the waffles. There we go. Yeah, so forgive the technical difficulties, my friends. There we go. It was the hotel internet. Deconstructed saxo melody is plant music. Just like a video game. Beautiful. Beautiful and brilliant. You know, that from a musical perspective, you hear the sax, the organic saxophone, and then almost like this Mario Brothers type of audio. Beautiful. Edition of 15 for 8 Tezos each, and quite a few going so far. Waffles picking one up, Neon Monk, Greg Nikshumika, Yuri J, Absurdity. So yeah, cool crowd here. Yeah, I should pick one of those up too. Rinny Fish. And so let's see. This is on Rodeo, 81 minted here so far. So maybe $16, let's call it, and let's see if it loads up here. Slowly loading up. And another kind of zooming in a bit on A Monster and making it a work here. So cool work here by Rinny Fish. Here's Rat Cloak, and this is an edition of 1 at auction, right now at 50 Tezos. I think if the auction was settled for 75, so I guess since I loaded this up. So pretty good deal for Rat Cloak 1 of 1. Again, these hard contrasts, a very painterly work here, Photoshop brushes, those colors, classic Rat Cloak colors, and this kind of uncomfortable contrasts here, juxtapositions of these faces in the eyes. Very hard juxtaposition. Here's Uxine. A lot of interesting things going on here. Divine Drones. Now check this out. Look at what's going on here. So normally we see Uxine painting away, digital art painting, a little drone here, but look at these like little pixelated areas. See over there on the shoulder? Pretty interesting little details. So Uxine continues to experiment here. Also different kinds of colors here. Sold out at, I think 22 Tezos, if I'm not mistaken. And now on secondary for 30. I'm pretty sure that sold out at 22, exactly. $30 each, edition of 22. So $660. Nice take. Bazaya, Libertador Siglo 20. So this is on object. So looks like a Cuban revolutionary or something. Open edition, 55 minted so far, at 42 cents each. So that's like $21 or maybe more, $23. Here's the Myth edition of 10 on object, and selling 4 so far at $14 each. So that's adding up. So almost $60 there for the Myth on object for this work. So doing pretty good to keep on bringing in the cash. Let's continue. Here's Bad Cod. You know what's funny about PO'd, open edition, 44 minted at $269. You know what's funny about Bad Cod? This is the artist first ever time I bought NFT was from this artist. And that's when I realized, as I tell people, it's hard to kind of understand. It's like Bitcoin. Until you actually buy it and send it, and then you see it show up in a different wallet, it's all abstract. Until you do that, it's all abstract, and it's all kind of semantics. Once you do it, that's when the understanding happens, and I'd argue it's the same thing. I was selling my art for a while. I wasn't really convinced by the whole thing. Then I bought a work. It was Bad Cod, and that's when I understood. And I was like, oh, I own this work now. Anyways, back on Tezos. Great to see, and doing pretty well here. 44 sold, kind of nice painterly works here. As we continue, here is Sumi Ryu C, Fake Unicorn. Cool kind of combination of different kinds of brushes here. Kind of looks like graphite and digital painting. So some interesting contrasts, kind of a surreal work here. Edition of 15 for 10 Tezos, almost sold out. Or I guess some were 5 and now selling for 10. It's another strategy. And here, let's see if we can get Rodeo. If you change your internet, all sorts of issues here. This is what happens when you're on the road, but we're putting out a show here. Heel Monster, Believe in Something. Kind of a cool work here. 2 colors and different kinds of pixelation, illustration, some aliens, just kind of a fun work. That is on Rodeo, and that 450, doing very well. Kind of glitch art, it's being called. Here's John. Abstract window 14700. So these continue to do very well. So John, selling a lot of works here. And last time we saw, it's like 350. That's a huge audience, right? 355 collectors. Like the highest one looked like it was 35. I think I saw there. Here's Cap'n, 265. So Cap'n doing pretty well as well on Rodeo here. And there, maybe in the spirit of Rodeo, is the horses. And a little fire here, and beautiful work here from Cap'n. Here's, I believe, an on-chain work by Fragments, which is also Cap'n, from an island. And kind of a 3-color landscape here. So probably a fairly low file size. This sold for 75 Tezos, $100. And here's a work by Rural Idol. Kind of a pixel art work, works with a lot of these kind of mountain hill imagery. And this is, I think, the Northern Baja, California, edition of 53, and now 15 Tezos. I guess it was an open edition for 33 Tezos cents. So nice colors here, cool kind of pixel art work. Here's Sui Soichi, The Wizard's Nightmare. So kind of a video game style work, like almost like a pixel art painting here. A little bit of noise here, kind of glitchy, right? Interesting piece from Sui Soichi, always interesting. Here's Murakit, more interesting pixel art. This is on Rodeo. Actually, 18 mints. Thank you so much for minting. Let's see how it's doing now. Quickly. Yeah, 18 mints. Okay, so that was the total. So maybe $5. Cool work. Cool looking work from Murakit. Huge fan of that artist. Gogolitis, an unexpected discovery. This is an edition of 300, and that sold for a Tezos 80. So bringing in almost 560 Tezos. That's like $800 or $700. Amazing. Cool work here. Amazing. Good job, Gogolitis. Here's Deed. Deed or Alive. I think this was reposted by Gogolitis, if I'm not mistaken. So other new pixel artists here on the scene, or pixel artists I haven't seen before. Here is OX Edwards. Shout out to Michael McCasso. I think this is on Rodeo. So, right, because we've been looking at this artist with interesting works on Rodeo, so kind of early, kind of retro computer style. Here is Louis Osborne, 950 mints here on Rodeo. Offer has been accepted. And then, so almost maybe even taking this bouncing ball from another work and then just putting these 510x, I'm guessing, and putting these different offers together as it bounces across them. Just a brilliant graphic artist there, so to speak. Brilliant artist. Seba Sestero, visual communicator, a brilliant visual communicator. Here's Seba Sestero with another kind of psychological illustration here. I found another giant. So interesting piece here. Long shadow, reminiscent of Dali. Jake Studios work Spark Balance. And I think, so this is on Zora, and I think Spark, this is a reference to the, I don't know if it's the coin or whatever they use on Zora, I think, to buy and sell work. So here, interesting piece. How many minted? 66 minted so far, still available. Here's Strano with a pixel artwork. Boat is on fire and I forgot how to swim. So a little boat, maybe in a river here. So drawing with pixels. So Strano experimenting with pixel art. Here is Grimm's, kind of a cool, I think, who was it that, John Cates posted this. That's how I came across it. Open edition. I love the minimalism of this piece. Great work there from Grimm's. Here's Kyle Flemmer with a Fight Club drag race. Here is a Nintendo Glitch ROM. Nice small work here. That is an open edition for 33 Tezos cents. Here's Luis Andre Gama with another interesting animated abstract here that was posted on X. Here's Nicholas Sassoon. And I'll just pause these. As you can see, more GIFs. You go to Nicholas Sassoon's website, you'll see this all full blast, and it's quite spectacular when you see it in full kind of resolution. Here, is this Spiegel's? I'm not sure what this is. Yeah, it is. Amazing loop video by Spiegel's Meskinen. So, interesting. So maybe, not sure, it looks like part of a music thing. And Spiegel's putting together maybe the videos. Spiegel's up to all sorts of interesting things. Here's Renki. Higashi Nagahara. Oh, this is a brilliant work. I almost started with this. Beautiful work here from Renki. Really just a head-turner. And nice to see the continued experimentation. Edition of 1 unlisted. Here's Kurt Hustle Collective with a new work, Path 2 Melody du Maison. Really heavy distortion or noise in the background. Really rich. We're not going to be able to play the whole thing. It's kind of a fun one. Yes, and so that is an edition of 10 for 5 Tezos each. And how many are left? 2. Get it while you can. Ex-Immortal Vessel. So here, just a flower blooming, and this is an edition of 7, and I think this sold out. It did, at $13.38 each. Nice work. Here is Martin Joe with kind of a CGI AI work, Revolving Ecstasy. So always a bit of an edgy kind of S&M theme there from Martin Joe. And that was an open edition and that minted 22. Here's Myth on Rodeo, 133 minted. I believe this is AI. And so let's see what the Myth is up to here. Almost Myth shoes with a Myth mask in a shoebox. Pretty cool. Those look great. Here is Canuck Zapata, and this should load now. Super interesting. Pretty fun. Great music. I love the optimism of the music. Like, it's quite fun. It's not like this sad contemporary art thing, you know? It's quite upbeat. That's an edition of 1 and unsold so far, I believe, but maybe unlisted too. No Hygiene, edition of 1. So the weirdness continues. New heights of weirdness here from No Hygiene. There's the angel, and here's like the cat meat. Edition of 1, this is 25 Tezos. So wild AI art here from No Hygiene. Here's Ile on Rodeo with some orchids, some beautiful works here. Kind of painterly, and here's some new ones, actually. Just see what's going on there. Interesting combination. Cray AI Disaster 2 screenshot, pretty interesting. I think we have some other orchids here, as you see. So cool AI paintings from Ile. 11 minted there, Gentian 1. Very nice piece there. So cool AI artwork. And here's the Myth again with more AI art. And I believe available on Rodeo, Artificial Mythologens. Very cool. As we go into the physicals, Ochiai Shohei, work in progress. Very cool to see drawings of the work in progress. Here's another one. This is on X, work in progress. So very, very cool to see the notebook. Here's something put out by Komeito Art Center. And this is an artist, I think, called Horiguchi, who applied this, what is it? Different images, by weaving together different images digitally, creating a fragile structure. So it kind of looks like digital, but I think a lot of this is being made physically. Anyways, I'm curious. Hopefully we get more images from the Komeito Art Center. Of course, showing a lot of Hermipe's work there. Here's Filippo Francocci on X, and here you see a physical here on X. So, and I believe this is minted on Object. Interesting abstract. And here is Amanda Hallman. Makuba Monkey is my first open edition. So another cool physical here, and then made as an NFT. And that's your show, my friends. Thank you for your patience as we are on the road here. Thank you for watching and all your support. Until next time, take care.